Chapter 5. Behold the Dragons. They found Bo and Anna in the training room, standing next to their dragons.
"Wow, you look so fancy,"
Rory exclaimed. Anna wore a yellow dress that shone like the sun. Bo had on a silky blue tunic with a wave design stitched into it. Shu and Kepri's scales were clean and shiny. Bo looked at Drake and gave a little bow. "I will miss you, friend," he said. "And I will miss you too," Drake said. He bowed back. Anna squeezed Rory in a hug. "I wish you could come."
"Someone needs to stay here to guard the castle,"
Rory said, trying not to show how sad she really was.
"It's an important job."
"Anna, Bo, it's time," Griffith said. Bo and Anna got onto their dragons. They waved as two of the king's guards led them out of the training room. Drake and Rory jumped up. They quickly climbed to the top of the nearest tower so they could watch the parade.
"Wow,"
Rory cried, looking down.
"We can see all the way to my village from up here."
Drake looked too. A big crowd had come to the castle to see the dragons. His mother was probably down there. Rory sighed.
"I wish we were going too."
"So do I," said Drake. "At least there's one thing Rory and I agree on." Then a trumpet blared loudly in the courtyard. "Behold, the dragons!" a guard announced. Bo and Anna came out of the castle, riding Shu and Kepri, and the crowd gasped. King Roland nodded to them as he rode on his horse, leading the dragons. Rows of soldiers marched on either side. The crowd clapped and cheered as they left the kingdom. Drake and Rory watched until the dragons were out of sight. Suddenly, Rory pointed to Drake's dragonstone. Drake looked down. It was glowing green. Then he heard the voice of his dragon inside his head. "Trouble is coming." Drake ran down the tower stairs all the way to Worm's cave. Worm was sitting up. His eyes were bright green. "What is it, Worm? What kind of trouble?" Drake asked. Worm shook his head, like he wasn't sure. Rory ran up behind Drake.
"What's going on? What did Worm tell you?"
"He said trouble is coming," Drake replied, "but he doesn't know exactly what or when."
"Trouble, eh?"
Diego said, walking into the cave.
I haven't seen anything in the gazing ball. But Worm is good at sensing things. I can make a spell to find out if Maldred is blocking his magic so I cannot see it. I will get on it, so don't worry. Go have fun."
But Drake found Diego's order hard to follow. He could not stop worrying about Worm's message. Chapter 6. Trouble in the Tower. The next morning the sun shone brightly through the window in Drake's room. He looked over at Bo's empty bed. It felt weird to be all alone. When he got to the dining room, Rory and Diego were already eating breakfast. Drake sat down. Rory looked mad.
"No, Rory," said Diego. "You may not take Vulcan into the Valley of Clouds today." "So first I could not go to Arkwood, and now I cannot even go outside?"
asked Rory.
"The Valley of Clouds is too open. It may not be safe," said Diego. "But you may take Vulcan up to the tower." "Yay!"
Rory jumped up.
"If you see any danger, get right back inside the castle," said Diego.
Then he left to keep watch for any sign of Maldred.
"Let's go, Drake,"
said Rory. She tapped her foot while Drake quickly finished his breakfast. Then they went down to the dragon caves. Worm was still sleeping, so Drake didn't wake him. He'll need his rest if trouble really is coming, Drake thought. Rory ran to Vulcan's cave. He snorted happily when he saw her. It was a tight squeeze in the stairway, but the big dragon followed Rory and Drake up to the tower. As soon as they reached the balcony, Vulcan spread his wings. Then he launched off the balcony and flew up into the blue sky. Rory smiled.
"Look how amazing he is."
Drake nodded. "Yes, he looks really strong."
"I know,"
Rory said proudly.
"And Worm. I know Worm can do amazing things too."
It was the first time Rory had ever said anything nice about Worm. "Thanks," Drake said. "I think that Worm is the right dragon for me, just like Vulcan is the right dragon for you." Rory sighed.
I hope so. I just wish Vulcan would connect with me.
Drake looked up at the sky. I'm sure he will soon. Then he spotted something beyond Vulcan. What's that? He asked. He gasped. Is that a dragon flying this way? Rory looked.
Maybe it's Shu or Khepri.
But this dragon had green scales, and something else that made it different than their dragons. That dragon has 4 heads, they both cried at once. Chapter 7. Guarding the castle. The dragon swiftly flew toward the tower. Remember Diego's dream? Drake asked. He saw Mordred riding a 4-headed dragon. Rory squinted.
There is a man on that dragon's back.
Vulcan was still flying beside the tower. He hadn't seen the other dragon yet.
Vulcan, come here,
Rory yelled. Her dragon circled back to the tower. Curious, they watched as the strange dragon came closer. It had dark green scales. Each of the dragon's 4 long necks had light green scales. On top of each neck was a head with a short, thin snout that curved onto the end like a beak. Then they saw a man riding the dragon. He was wearing a red robe. He had an eye patch and a beard with a white stripe in it. It's Mordred, Drake yelled. Rory jumped on Vulcan's back. Rory, what are you doing? Drake asked.
I'm going to fight Mordred,
she replied.
I'll show King Roland what Vulcan and I can do. But Diego said we should get inside the castle, and we'll need Worm's help too, Drake said. We can't fight Mordred on our own. He's too powerful.
Rory wrapped her arm around Vulcan's neck.
This is my castle and my kingdom. I will stay and fight. You can go for help if you want, she said. Vulcan, let's go,
Rory cried. Vulcan flew off the balcony. Drake knew he needed to get Diego and Worm up there quickly. Drake closed his eyes. He gripped his dragonstone. Worm, come now, and bring Diego, he thought with all his might. Please, Worm. Whoosh! A few seconds later, a green glow burst next to Drake. Worm and Diego instantly appeared on the tower.
Drake, what's wrong?
Diego asked. Drake pointed to the sky. Rory and Vulcan were flying right toward Mordred and the 4-headed dragon. Chapter 8. The Hydra.
Vulcan, fire!
Rory yelled. Vulcan blasted the 4-headed dragon with a stream of fire. The dragon swiftly soared up, avoiding the flames.
The Hydra from my dream,
Diego cried. Diego, I told Rory she can't fight Mordred on her own, but she wouldn't back down. She doesn't even have her saddle on. She could slip off Vulcan any minute, Drake yelled.
Oh dear,
Diego cried. He pointed a finger at Vulcan. Poof! A saddle appeared underneath Rory. Rory looked surprised for a second. Then she grabbed onto the reins.
Hiya!
She cried. Vulcan charged up toward the Hydra. The Hydra opened all 4 mouths.
Rory, steer away,
Diego yelled.
The Hydra shoots poison.
But Rory didn't listen.
Fire!
She yelled again. Vulcan shot out more flames just as the Hydra attacked with a green mist. The fire and the mist met in midair. Roar! Vulcan cried out as some of the mist hit his wing. Then he dove down to the ground toward safety. Rory held on tightly. Diego rushed to the edge of the balcony.
Mordred, come over here and fight like a wizard,
Diego challenged. Mordred turned at the sound of Diego's voice. He steered the Hydra down to the balcony. Drake ducked behind Worm. Up close, he could see that the Hydra's 8 eyes were glazed over red.
I'm not afraid of you, Diego. Your magic cannot stop me,
Mordred said. He stared right at Drake.
You are a dragon master, aren't you?
Drake was too scared to answer.
It was your dragon that destroyed my red orb,
the wizard went on.
But your dragon's little trick revealed his powers to me.
What do you know about Worm? Asked Drake.
Arr!
Diego let out a cry.
Be gone!
He pointed at Mordred. Blue lightning shot from his finger. Smiling calmly, the evil wizard waved his hand. The blue lightning sizzled out in midair. Mordred laughed.
Is that all you got for me, wizard?
Diego turned to Drake.
Maldred is much too powerful, he whispered. We need Griffith. I'll use magic to get him quickly. But Drake, you must stay here. Use Worm to get Rory and Vulcan to safety.
Drake nodded.
I'll try.
Diego snapped his fingers and vanished. Rory and Vulcan swooped down from the sky. The fire dragon's wings still sizzled from the poisonous attack. Maldred flew up high, back into attack position.
Fire!
Rory yelled. Vulcan blasted the Hydra again. Then the Hydra shot more poison at Vulcan. Vulcan dodged it, but it hit one of the castle towers. The stone sizzled and then started to melt. Drake caught Rory's eyes. She looked frozen in fear.
Rory, fly down,
Drake called up to her.
Touch Worm. We need to get out of here.
I know this trick,
yelled Maldred.
You aren't going to vanish into thin air this time.
Then he pulled on the reins to make the Hydra dart toward the tower. Worm began to glow green, but Rory still wasn't moving. She would need to touch Worm so he could transport them all out of there.
Come on, Rory,
Drake urged. Then he turned to Worm.
Worm, you need to float up there. Hurry, touch Vulcan, and I'll jump up to touch your tail.
Worm nodded. He began to float. Then Drake heard an evil laugh. He turned and saw Maldred holding up a glowing red stone. Red light shot out from the stone. Startled, Vulcan bucked under Rory. Zap! A beam of red light hit Worm right between the eyes. Drake stumbled backward as he watched Worm's eyes glazed over red, just like the Hydra's eyes. Then the light formed the red bubble around Worm. The bubble floated toward Maldred.
Worm, no!
Drake yelled. Maldred grinned.
Worm is mine now.
Chapter 9. Maldred's Plan. The red bubble holding Worm floated in the air beside the Hydra. Maldred aimed the red stone at Vulcan.
Get him away, Rory,
yelled Drake. Rory pulled hard on the reins just as the red beam of light came bursting out of the red stone. This time, Maldred's magic was a second too late. Vulcan had already shot up over the castle. Drake watched Vulcan and Rory fly out of sight. He was all alone.
Did Rory leave me here? And when will Diego get back? He wondered. Sweat broke out on his skin.
Let that big brute fly away,
Maldred said.
Worm is the dragon I want. Worm is what I came for. He is my prize.
Drake tried to connect Worm. He touched his dragonstone.
Worm, can you hear me? Are you okay?
Worm didn't answer. Suddenly, Drake didn't feel scared anymore. He felt angry.
Leave Worm alone,
Drake yelled. Maldred laughed.
You don't even know how truly powerful this dragon is. I have known since the day I sent my spy orb into your castle. I saw his powers then. I knew he was the only dragon I would need to carry out my plan.
Worm is my dragon, Drake called out bravely. How can you control him without a dragonstone?
Maldred held up a red stone.
This is a red dragonstone created by magic. Dark magic. With this stone I can make any dragon follow my orders.
Drake looked at the red glaze in the Hydra's eyes.
Of course. Maldred must have captured the Hydra too. And he's making it attack us. What kind of bad things will Maldred make Worm do?
Drake got a bad feeling in his stomach.
What do you need Worm for?
Said Drake.
You already have a four-headed dragon by your side.
Maldred grinned.
She is powerful, but not as powerful as Worm,
the wizard replied.
Worm can move mountains. Worm can move armies. He can even make the earth shake. With this red dragon stone and Worm by my side, all kingdoms will bow down to me.
They will never bow to you,
Drake yelled, but his whole body was shaking with fear.
Where is everybody? Unless help came fast, Maldred would win.